Want to watch some bad date stories? Let's do it.
Tell me about the worst date you've ever been on. Here's mine.
So I picked this girl up from her house for our first date many years ago. Getting to head into a Mexican restaurant about 10 minutes from her house. Conversation to the restaurant is great. We get to the restaurant, they seat us, we're having a good time. We order our food. About halfway through the meal, she goes, "Take me home now." "You okay?" She said, "Take me home." We jump in the car, heading back to the house. About 5 minutes before we get to the house, I hear, "Wee." What was that? She said, "I'm so sorry." Her face turned as red as my hoodie. This lady had pass gas. It sounded like a parrot was giving birth to a squirrel. Well, the smell come and it smelled like fresh baby. She rolls her window down and starts gagging. I'm trying not to make a scene because I know she's mortified. I'm gagging because she's gagging and the smells got off. We get to the house, pull up. I jump out to help her out. She darts from my car. She can't make it to the house, stops by her bushes and just dumps everything. To this day, she has refused to text me or call me.
Tell me about the worst date you've ever been on.
I don't think it was the date that was bad. I think it's what happened on the date that was bad. Do you know what? The more I tell these stories, the more that I realise my life is a shambles. Anyway, so I'm going on a date. I'm going to the mailbox. If you're from Birmingham, you know where the mailbox is. And I decided to get one of them ponytails from Lullabells. Anyway, moving on. I attached the ponytail to my head top. It's bare tight, it feels nice, I look nice. I'm walking down the steps. For those of you that don't know what the mailbox is, as you walk down the steps of the mailbox, it's next to a big canal that you walk along. It's December, it's a really windy day. All of a sudden, yeah, all I can feel, my head feels lighter. My head feels lighter, it doesn't feel that heavy anymore. The ponytail flew off the head top and landed in the canal. I had to watch it float away before my eyes. Bruv, this geezer looked at me 1 minute, I had my ponytail. He looked at me again, it was gone. Another reason why I'm alone.
Tell me about the worst date you've ever been on.
I went on a date with this guy who threw me out of his car at 1:30 in the morning.
Kitty, come on.
Because he was angry that I didn't believe in aliens. And he said that I was ignorant and shallow to think that we're the only living species in this whole universe and that I deserve to walk home. Mind you, he lived in Burbank, California. I lived in Inglewood, California. And if anybody's in California, you know how far Burbank is from Inglewood. So yeah, I didn't deserve to be in his car because I didn't believe in aliens.
Okay, that's not a good enough reason. There's actually no reason to leave, like, you know, a young lady alone to walk home by herself. There's no good reason for that. But you should believe in aliens. You should believe in aliens, but that's no reason to kick someone out of their car. So, very ungentlemanly and uncaring. So, you know what? It's for the best. You're safe, and you don't have to ever talk to them again. Hey, kitty, come up. No, come up here. Come on. Okay, our special guest. Yes? Would you come with Mom? Look at this one. Oh my gosh. Okay, sit here nicely with Mom, okay? Yeah, okay, let's keep going.
Tell me about the worst date you've ever been on.
Okay, this one is awful. So I went on a date with this girl. It was our second date. I decided to take her to a Chinese buffet, all you can eat, because I'm overweight and I decided it'd be fun. Halfway through the date, I realized this Kung Pao chicken is really beating up the old intestines. I'm gonna absolutely poo myself if I don't go right now. How do you get out of a situation like this? I'm doing small talk, sweat's dribbling down my face, and I said, hey, I have a phone call to take really quick. My agent has something to tell me. So I go, wander off to the toilet. Little flutes are playing as I'm waiting to take a poo because an old man obviously is going through the same thing. Finally sit down. Celine Dion, My Heart Will Go On, as I'm just ripping out a doozy. It wasn't a sit, rip it and grip it. It was just a, oh, balls to the wall poo-poo. Realizing, what am I going to say to this girl? Go back, tell her I had an audition for a huge movie coming up. Don't know why, that's the first thing that came to my head. And then I asked her to be my wife 8 months later.
Wow,
I've never gone back there since.
Tell me about the worst date you've ever been on.
I have a good one for this one. I went on a Tinder date with this guy who was a teacher. He was 25. He taught elementary school kids. I'm like, oh, that's so sweet. He had a son. He said that his son's mother had passed away tragically. He was a single dad. how horrible. The other teachers would watch his kids when he would go on dates. I'm like, that's so sweet. How nice of them. He loves running. He seemed like a normal person. And then I, of course, had to Instagram stalk and like see how this tragic story unfolded because I love things like that. I love pain and sadness. And so I went to stalk her on Instagram, and then I went back to show my friend and look on a different day. And when I did, she had new posts, and so I stalked even further and like found obviously her whole family and whole career history on the internet. And it turns out she was not at all. She was very much alive. They were very much together in a relationship. And he was so normal. He was like the most normal person I'd been on a date with in a long time. And I confronted him about it and told him that he lied and that she was actually alive. And I was like, what the f-, dude? And he told me that I was lying and that she's alive.
Tell me about the
Message
worst date
her.
you've ever been on.
I was on a date with a guy who took the bread off of my plate, handed it back to the server, and then told me he deserved to date a guy with a six-pack.
No way.
Tell me about the worst date you've ever been on.
Serious?
So I went on this date with this guy. He picks me up in a Porsche, and I'm like, oh, okay, cool. You got a cool car. And I look and I see that his car is on E. So me thinking he's gonna go to the gas station first before we go on our date. Nope, he doesn't. So we drive like 25 minutes away to this restaurant. As I walk in, the waiter goes, oh, like, you guys are back. Mind you, I've never been in that town before. I've never been with him before.
Okay, Kitty.
And I was
Thank
like,
you.
okay, like, that was awkward. He didn't say anything, sat down at the table. Then the waiter goes, oh, like, you guys come here all the time. Like, what can I get you today? I'm like, bro, second time. So then I'm like, okay, whatever, let it go. On our way home, he finally stops at the gas station, and I'm like, oh, thank God we weren't gonna make it. And he only fills it up with $10. And I'm like,
Yeah.
what is happening?
Whatever.
Worst date.
Oh, I meet this guy on Tinder. 6'8", fine, caramel, absolutely gorgeous.
Okay.
And we go on a couple of lunch dates. It's cute. My coworkers get to know him. He even comes to a work event. He supposedly works nights, but this particular weekend, he wants to cook for me. So I'm super excited. I grab my favorite bottle of wine and an overnight bag, and I head over. No sooner do I put the microwaved Alfredo to my lips, there's a knock at the door. I'm like, are you expecting someone? He's like, no. He begins collecting my things and tossing them out the back door, and then tells me to hide.
No.
As I'm collecting my things and going over how my life has
No,
reached
don't
this
hide.
new low, MacBook in the dirt low. I walk down the grassy knoll to my car, and a woman and 3 children come running out the back door to let me know that he is married. He changed the locks on them, and this isn't the first time.
Tell me about
Oh
the
my
worst date you've
goodness,
ever been
it's
on.
horrible.
Here's mine.
Full disclosure, he was a very nice guy. Let me just start off saying that. He was a nice guy. He was hotter than me. Not like kinda hot, like really hot. The whole first date was a series of like interview questions with what my skincare routine was, how I did my hair,
What?
where did I go tanning, where do I buy my clothes. I've never met such a pretty boy in my entire
We want
life.
to be you.
Like, I've never felt so uncomfortable. And then he talked about how in love he was with his ex. The entirety of the second half of the date. I'm not even sure he asked me one question after the skin and hair questions.
That's pretty bad,
Worst date
eh?
you've ever been on.
Stick with me. So when I was 17 years old, I was a youth leader at this church. We would go on these little retreats, and when we went on one of the retreats, there was this girl, and I was like, oh my God, like, I want to take you out on a date. And she was like, dope, let's do it. And I was like, great, ice cream? She's like, tubular. And we went out on the date, and it went really well. At least I thought it went really well. Turns out it didn't, because I got completely ghosted, like really ghosted. I ended up joining the army, getting deployed, getting back, becoming a youth leader again. Years goes by without me seeing her. She walks back in. I'm like, oh my God, what's up? It's been so long. She's like, yeah, what's going on in your life? I said, I'm actually a prison guard now. She's like, really uncomfortable, like really weird on me, and said, I'm just here to get closer to God. I said, okay, that's dope. And then it turns out, I see on the news 2 weeks later, she's arrested for first degree, and they found the body in the ocean.
No.
Turns out she committed the day before she went to church. I ended up being the prison guard that watched over her cell, and ice cream shop didn't have cookies and cream? Like, why isn't that a staple at this point?
No way.
Tell me about the worst
Is
date
that
you've ever been on.
real?
Okay, so my two best friends from high school, they found out that I'm a lesbian and they were just not okay with it at all. So they were like, there's no way that you can be, like, let us just set you up on a date with a guy, you just haven't met the right guy yet. And for whatever reason, I was like, okay, fine. So I went out on a date with this guy, knowing full well that I'm a flaming homosexual, and he was just not a nice person to even just have a conversation with. And we were talking about our families and getting to know each other, and I brought up the fact that my dad when I was a child. And he said, oh, well, at least that's one less parent I'd have to meet. That was my last date with a man.
Yeah, seriously.
Tell me about the worst date you've
Don't
ever
even
been
talk
on.
to them.
I met up with this guy at a bar that I went to a lot, and the night was winding down. He went inside, and then we said our goodbye. When I went inside, I discovered he had put all of his drinks on my tab.
Tell me about the worst date you've ever been on.
So I went on a date with this absolute stunning woman, looked like a supermodel a few years ago, and she was really strange, and right off the bat I could tell it was not going to go very well. She kept telling me I was predictable, everything I was saying, she could predict this, and she could predict what I was going to ask her next, or she could predict how the conversation was going to go, she could predict what I was going to order. So she's drinking like 2 bottles of champagne throughout this meal. She orders an appetizer, an entree. She's about to order 2 desserts because she couldn't decide on what she wanted to order. And she just throughout the whole meal kept telling me I'm predictable, and I'm like, screw this. So I excused myself to go to the bathroom, and I left. And like 15 minutes later, I get a text, is everything okay? And about 45 minutes later, I get a text, and it's like, you better get back here. They're going to close. You need to pay the bill. And I'm like, oh, I left. You didn't predict that?
Tell me about the worst date
Wow.
you've ever been on.
Pretty rude,
Okay,
though.
so I'm on a date with this guy and the check comes. So I go to pull my card out of my bag to be like, oh, like, let's split it or whatever.
Yep.
No, this man says to me, we have to get this itemized because you drank more than me. I drank 1 more beer than he did. But yeah, sure, okay, great, sounds good. So the waitress comes and he asks for like another copy of the check or whatever. He calculates how much he owes, how much I owe, the tax, whatever. Then he says, oh, the nachos were $15. Can you give me $5 for the 4 tortilla chips you ate? He counted how many tortilla chips I had. So then I was like, yeah, okay. So I give him my card and I get up to go to the bathroom. Well, I actually left and I actually gave him an expired Visa gift card. So that's how you don't take somebody on a first date.
Wow, okay, pretty good move at the end there. I mean, kind of bad. You shouldn't ever leave someone with the bill. Come on, that's not nice. Just split it. I mean, he was pretty excessive with the way he was splitting it, eh? She had 1 more beer and he wanted her to pay more. Come on, be a gentleman. You know, whoever asks for the date should pay. You know, they're asking to take you out, so they should take you out. That's just awful. Anyways, thank you so much for watching those with me. Makes you feel a little bit better. We all have these experiences, eh? Dating sucks. Dating sucks. I hate it. I never want to do it again. And hi, Kitty. And yeah, I really appreciate you being here. Thanks for watching. I have a ton of videos you can check out on my channel, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.